All right. Well, it's day three of the SEC spring meetings. I should say day three kind of just wrapped up. I'm Ethan Westerman with Whole Hog Sports, joined by Scotty Bordelon, who is out there in Destin. And it was a big day Thursday there at the spring meetings. Would you just talk about, the big news that came out of today?
Yeah, so in 2024, they're not going with like a 8 or 9 game model where there is a fixed opponent or multiple fixed opponents. In 2024, you're going to have just an 8 game schedule inside SEC play, and there will still be the requirement of a Power Five program or a major independent. That was the word from Greg Sankey about 4:30, a little after 4:30 today. It's kind of more like a stopgap measure, I think, for 2024 because Texas and Oklahoma were set to come in, I believe, in 2025, but that got moved up to 2024. So they're just kind of going with this stopgap measure for 2024, and then they're going to figure out potentially, hopefully, Greg Sankey said, a long-term solution for the scheduling model, in a year. That was his hope. He seemed like he was pretty optimistic. He didn't rule out that 8 games could be in play as a long-term model, but I think there's quite a few people, I would imagine, in the league that would want 9 games. But for now, 8 games is what's going to be coming down for the SEC in 2024. There's going to be a kind of a schedule reveal show on June 14th on SEC Network. Every member, including Texas and Oklahoma, they'll find out, who they're playing SEC wise in 2024, but we won't know the dates of those games. Those will come out at a later date.
And the feeling right now is kind of that Arkansas's opponent will probably be Missouri, right?
Okay, so in 2024, it'll just be like there'll be just one division. Like divisions will go away in 2024 when OU and Texas get here. And so that's why they're kind of doing the schedule reveal show, is because there's not going to be like a fixed opponent that year. It'll just kind of be, you're going to find out who you're going to play on June 14th, which 8 SEC teams you're going to play. The divisional format is going to go away. So there won't be like a fixed opponent from the Eastern Division that a Western Division team has to play. It's just going to be kind of, I think Greg Sankey called it like a single standings model. So it's just going to be one 16-team division, so to speak. So they'll find out on June 14th on SEC Network, which I think is.
So that June 14th show. Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're good. I think it's pretty fitting. They kind of turned this thing into a TV show in a couple of weeks.
So Arkansas really on June 14th could find out it's going to be anybody.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah, so the divisions will be eliminated in 24, and so with that logic, yeah, it's just kind of up in the air on who Arkansas is going to play. But Greg Sankey said that the schedule will be determined. Let me get the exact wording on this real fast from my story. He said that he thinks that this 8-game schedule in 2024 is a really healthy 1-year opportunity. And he added that, again, like I said earlier, that the league could stick with 8 games in 24. And he was asked what he would say to the people who are, would maybe criticize the league for shying away from going to 9 games. And he said, look, over time, nobody's shying away from anything. We just didn't add another game. Let me see. He said the schedules released later this month will be determined based on a, quote, expectation of fairness and balance. So I think Arkansas would consider that fair and balanced if they got like Vandy for once, like, and they didn't have to like go to Florida and to Georgia and to Alabama or play Alabama. Like we don't really know what that schedule is going to look like, but it will definitely draw a lot of eyeballs on June 14th. That's 100% sure.
And then I know another thing that was, big on discussion, which should be of note to Arkansas fans, considering the amount of court and field stormings that have happened, I guess, in recent history was just kind of what the stance that they're going to take going forward on these court and field stormings. Do you have a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so that was Greg Sankey talked about that almost immediately after the schedule news that he dropped. And Arkansas in the 2021-22 academic year, they got fined $350,000 total for a couple of field storming, I don't know if you want to call them incidents or events or, memorable. They were obviously memorable nights. I will never forget as long as I lived that Auburn night or the Texas game in football for that matter. But so the schools will be fined $100,000 for their first future offense. That's up from $50,000. And the second offense went up to $250,000, which that rose from $100,000. And then the third and subsequent offenses after that will go to $500,000. And Greg Sankey said he has the ability to impose additional penalties. And those fines, interestingly, check this out, those fines will be directly paid to the opposing institution. So if you're a visitor who was rushed in this conference, and you will be the recipient of that fine money. So like a couple of years ago when Arkansas beat Auburn in basketball, if that was to happen in like this new policy or whatever that you want to call it, Arkansas would have like directly paid Auburn $250,000, which is pretty wild. But
So
I think
I'm guessing that this kind of resolution is kind of geared towards an incentive to, you don't want to help out your opponent per se, like, football rushing against Texas. I'm sure Arkansas doesn't really feel like making donations to
yeah, absolutely. Like
Texas.
I don't think Eric Musselman wants to pay $250,000 from the school to Bruce Pearl and Auburn. You know what I mean? So I think there's a pretty good chance that that this makes an impact. And something else that came from the release that I was given, prior to August 1st every year, a school has to provide the league office with a detailed field/court rush management plan and a communication plan that, I'm reading this quote here, that discourages students and fans from entering the playing surface and details increased penalty amounts. So they're pretty serious about this year. And I think you can see that just by the fine totals increasing. Pretty much doubled, especially the first and second offense going from 50 to 100 grand, and then the second offense going from 100 grand to $250,000. So they're pretty serious about it for sure.
I don't know how much of an extent they might have placed on former incidents kind of leading to this, but I know the Tennessee-Alabama football game this year brought up a lot of discussion because there was, of what happened on the field after that. Were there any examples given to kind of leading to this, or did they just kind of go into policy?
No, they just kind of went into what they announced today, but I don't have any doubt that, it was a really cool moment, when Tennessee beat Alabama last year. Fans are on the field like that for probably media members, at least some media members, and then fans. Obviously, it's a really cool thing to see. But if you're Alabama, you really don't like that. And then even if you're Tennessee, you don't like that. Or if you're, you don't like to see, a player get into an incident with a fan on the field. And all that can be avoided by, I think there's a greater chance of avoiding that by, just raising these penalties and fines for these schools. I don't think anybody wants to pay another, potentially like a rival program, like a bunch of money. So I think it's a pretty good incentive to try to keep fans off the field.
Great. Well, this was once again the day 3 recap of the SEC spring meetings down in Destin, Florida. Scotty's been there all week, and he has extensive coverage on wholehogsports.com. So make sure you're watching this video to head on over there if you want to get a really in-depth look at what's been happening. But for Ethan Westerman and Scotty Bordelon of Whole Hog Sports, this has been the SEC spring meetings update.